Overcast skies and a threat of rain here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's time for NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying. Danica Patrick scheduled to be the first driver out. Bob Dillner has some breaking news about Danica Patrick.
Well, Danica Patrick a little bit slow going through the technical process to get out to the qualifying grid this morning, but she is A-OK and smiling here in the garage area. Not exactly her car to her liking yesterday, but she is looking forward to qualifying and completing this race here today at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This will be her last race until June in the NASCAR Nationwide Series because she will be going back to the Indy Racing Series. So Danica Patrick a little slow getting out to the grid this morning, Steve.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate the update. Steve Burns, Kyle Petty, and Jeff Hammond.
He's up to it again.
It's
not me, man.
Already started trouble. I talked about a threat of rain, Jeff. The most recent forecast I saw shows rain starting at about 10 a.m. this morning, which, by the way, we should mention, unless every driver takes qualifying. Every driver, it's not an official qualifying session. So with the threat of rain, as a crew chief, what are you concerned with?
And what I'm concerned with is just trying to keep up really with what the track conditions are looking like right now. We didn't have rain, so good thing is as the track concluded, as far as the shape's concerned, we know what type of air pressure we can, guess on. You might say how much tape we can use. And basically, I want to tell my driver, look, don't do anything stupid this morning, okay? I need this car a little bit later on this afternoon, so I don't need to be worried about things sitting on the pole. Starting up front's a good thing, but it's not the most important thing, Kyle.
No, and it's not the most important. And a lot of these guys didn't try to qualify or make qualifying runs. The only guys that really did are the guys that have to make the race. So it's a funny qualifying thing. I think a lot of guys went to see Charo last night or went to see Elvis last night hoping that it would rain, so they wouldn't have to qualify.
And whatever you do, don't drive until you see Elvis.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man.
Well, first driver on the track is Josh Wise in the 61 car. Remember, the top 30 in owner points locked in, meaning Danica also has a spot guaranteed because their team got the owner points from the CJM team of last season.
And it's a lot cooler right now than what it was yesterday morning, so I'm real curious to see how this new tire combination kind of hooks up with this racetrack. Last week at California, it didn't. New tires, fresh tires, barely scuffed tires, whatever, they really liked that cool track temperature. We saw some fast times.
You did, and yesterday, these guys, this is the third time that the Nationwide cars have been on the track. They were on the track yesterday for 50 minutes and then for another hour and 15 or 20 minutes. And those were almost two totally different conditions because they went out on a green track, then they went out on a really well rubbered up track, and the sun was out, and now they're here. Track's rubbered up because it's not rained yet, but at the same time, it's a lot cooler today.
Kyle, we often talk about where you go out, the luck of the draw in terms of making your qualifying attempt. It seems like with these weather conditions, nobody really has an advantage.
Yeah, there's not an advantage here. We go places like Indy, you go places like Charlotte. There's racetracks that you run on the circuit that are incredibly temperature sensitive. Vegas never seemed to be that temperature sensitive. And even when the sun's out, it doesn't change a lot from the time qualifying starts to the time it's over. But when you have overcast conditions, 45, 50-degree temperatures like this, hey, it's the same for the guy that goes first and the same for the guy that goes 5 o'clock this afternoon.
I know there's no rhyme or reason sometimes when you look at these times, but Josh Wise has picked up a lot of speed over what he practiced at yesterday. So, again, going out on this morning doesn't look like it's a bad thing. He's about 4/10 quicker than what he ran yesterday.
But you know what? And how many times have you seen a driver do this, Jeff? You practice in your last practice and you go out and you watch those first few cars that go out as a driver and you think, my God, the racetrack's 4 or 5 tenths faster. I'm really going to pick it up. And then you barrel off in that corner and you see Elvis like we were talking about, and it doesn't stick like you want it to.
Here's a guy that was really bragging about his race car yesterday, Mike Wallace. He said his car was bad fast through the corners. He told his car owner, Johnny Davis, look, the only way I'm going to get beats down the straightaway. They're not going to beat me through the corner. He said he ran through 3 and 4 yesterday wide open. Let's see if that throttle moves at all so far. He did come out of it a little bit, right back to it wide open off of turn 4. Wasn't out of it very long at all, Kyle.
No, and he was very happy with his car, as you said. And he said he did that on old tires yesterday. And when you do it on old tires, it gives you a huge confidence to go in there on brand new stickers.
Well, he ran a 30-50 in the first practice, a little bit slower in the second, but he's right there. If he picks up like Josh Wise did, he has every opportunity here to put in a pretty quick time.
Mike making his 350th NASCAR Nationwide Series start this afternoon. Finished 7th here in 2008. And let's go to Chris Devoto.
Good morning, guys. You know, there are odds on everything in Las Vegas, right? Well, at the Sportsbook, not only are there odds in this race on who will win, Danica Patrick has odds on how many laps she will complete. 5-1. Only 30 laps completed, but 4-1 that she will complete the whole race, and it's broken down pretty specific throughout the entire race. Pretty interesting. That's one of the bets, just one of the bets you can make here in Las Vegas.
To me, that just says somebody's got way too much time in their hands to sit around and figure something like that out.
That's exactly right.
That makes
man.
my head hurt.
Somebody's going to bet on whether the sun's coming up tomorrow if they're betting on that. You know, it's funny watching these guys qualify, and we talk about the cooler conditions. You talk about scuff tires versus stickers. You talk about some. You know, these guys are running 2 laps, and their second lap is faster. Sometimes we go to the racetrack, and you watch Cup cars or Nationwide cars, they take their first lap because they get the good out of the tire. When it's a little bit cooler like this, a lot of times, it takes the second lap for the tire to get up to optimum temperature where it sticks the most. So, you know, we're seeing these guys run 2 laps, and their second lap has been fastest.
Guys, just getting word now that Danica Patrick is on the 5-minute clock to make her qualifying attempt.
I think she's going to be in pretty good shape. She is at the head of the line right there in the car, ready to go. So at the completion of Jason Leffler's run, you should see the 7 car come out. But Kyle, as we watch Jason Leffler coming to the green here, mentally, what did you have to do this? I mean, last night I was thinking about it. You know, imagine you're a pole vaulter and you got to go out first thing in the morning and jump 19 feet, or you're a high diver and you got to walk off and dive off a 50-foot cliff. I mean, what is it like getting ready to go out here and go 180 miles an hour?
The worst thing always from a driver's perspective, everything in racing, as we watch Leffler here with a really good lap, is about rhythm. You get into that rhythm. You practice in the morning, you get into the rhythm of what the car is doing. You get in the rhythm of the racetrack, what the day's coming to you. And if you qualify at the end of the day, you're still in that rhythm. When you practice like these people, like the Nationwide Series does, coming out on first thing in the morning and qualifying at a place other than Daytona and Talladega, at a place like this, is incredibly hard because you got to get pumped up and remember where you were at, try to go back. And that's where you see guys, some pick it up, some don't pick it up. Some are a lot slower. I mean, because you're just not used to it and you're not really sure of it. It's a strange thing. I never liked qualifying on the day after practice. You know, when NASCAR started doing that, I never liked that. I always liked to practice, know where my car was, know where the racetrack was, and go do it that afternoon.
I think it would be like Kyle, a basketball player going out to warm up and he feels hot, and all of a sudden you say, you're not going to play the game, you're going to play it tomorrow.
Okay, but it's like this. It's like being a basketball player. It's like being a basketball player and saying, okay, get up off the bench. You hadn't taken any shots, but go out there. This is overtime, and these free throws count for the game.
You got to make them.
You got to make them, and that's the way this is.
Well, would you say it was a better thing for her? Because I know a lot of drivers don't like going first. She was scheduled to go out first. Now she winds up going out really about 4th in the line here. Good thing, bad thing for her. What do you think?
Look, I'm not Danica, and I can't get in her mind. But for Kyle Petty, I would have rather let 2 or 3 cars go and listen to them, see what the times were, see what the racetrack was, and then go out and run my lap. I hated to be the first guy out always because everybody else was watching saying, okay, the racetrack picked up, the racetrack slowed down, the racetrack's slick, the racetrack's tight. You never know. You're the guinea pig, the first guy out.
She said last night on trackside that she feels a lot more comfortable here at Las Vegas than she did at California.
But I think California made her more comfortable. I really do. You know what I mean? I think if she had been at Vegas the second race and then she went to California, she would say exactly the same thing. Meaning
there's carryover.
There's carryover. And there's carryover week to week here. You know, Daytona didn't carry over to California, but California will carry over to Las Vegas.
She is the slowest so far of all our competitors that have tried so far this morning. It looks like she's working on a little bit better lap the second lap. And I noticed she was out of the throttle quite a bit down in turn 3 and 4. But again, sneaking up on, once again, she's out of the throttle now. She's waiting, back to it, wide open. We didn't see that out of anybody else so far.
All right, we're going to keep her down right here, coming to the stripe.
When you're a junior, tell her to cut that corner to get a little bit quicker. She does pick up on the second lap.
That's a good solid lap right there, man.
And that is right about what she ran in practice yesterday. Just a tick slower, not too bad.
Jason Leffler is the man to beat. More qualifying coming up. 51 teams here. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Nationwide Qualifying from Las Vegas is brought to you by Cheerios. 100% natural whole grain oats and only 1 gram of sugar. And by Atlanta Motor Speedway. Come see how NASCAR's big boys play Capture the Flag at Atlanta Motor Speedway March 5th through the 7th. Jason Leffler still with quick time, fastest speed. Michael McDowell, meanwhile, in a Dodge. Good effort by McDowell. He is second overall to Leffler. He's followed by Mike Wallace, Danica Patrick, and Josh Wise.
He found about 4/10 of what he practiced at yesterday.
Steve Wallace, top 10 finishes in his last 4 races. Let's go back to Bob.
Danica Patrick, 4th quick so far. How was that run?
I think it was okay. I mean, it felt okay. I don't think it's going to be very good, but you know, this qualifying is definitely new for me. We have done very little qualifying practice. We didn't do any at Fontana. We didn't do any here. We've been mostly working on race car stuff, and we kind of thought it was going to rain, which was the situation at Fontana too. So I really have no idea where the limit is with this on qualifying laps, and you know, taped up and all the other stuff that they do. So in general, it felt pretty good, and I probably should have pushed a little harder, but I don't want to ball it up either.
3rd race in the Nationwide Series. What are your expectations for today's race, Danica?
You know, after last weekend, I think if we finish in the top 25, it'll be a good step in the right direction.
Danica Patrick going for it today, her 3rd race in the Nationwide Series, guys.
Well, Bob, Steve Wallace is now the man to beat. 181.830 miles per hour, a sub 30-second lap at a 29.69.
That's a great lap. That's an incredible lap. You know, and you can bet your bottom dollar he ran wide open around here. But you know, it's funny sometimes. When they first started with the nationwide cars at Atlanta, you could run wide open around that racetrack, but running wide open around the racetrack wasn't the fastest way around the racetrack. Sometimes you run a car so fast into the corner, when it finally sets in the middle of the corner, it lands on itself and it bogs the car down. It's almost like putting too much steering wheel in it and just slowing the car down. Sometimes it's best to feather out, let the car take a different set. So when we watch Danica qualify, or you watch some of these guys roll out a little bit, that's not necessarily always a bad thing. It's just what their car, the fastest way for their car around the racetrack.
You got to have good feel about that. We talk about balance, Steve. We talk about the feel. You watch this 34 car with Tony Raines in it. I say it's bottoming out a little bit around this racetrack. We saw a lot of guys yesterday having trouble with the bumps that this racetrack. It looks smooth, but it's still very rough. See the cars bobbing up and down and through the corners right there. I saw that 34 car bottoming out.
Kyle, you mentioned yesterday during one of the practice shows that Greg Biffle had told you, you know what, the Gibbs cars are already the ones to beat. Well, Stephen Wallace is not in a Gibbs car, but you know what? They have an alliance with Gibbs. Yeah. He's in a Toyota. He and Brendan Gaughan, his teammate. So it's obvious that's already paying dividends.
Yeah, when you look at the Toyotas, you know, the Toyotas are just incredibly strong, and they have been over the last, and that's a tip of the hat to Toyota, because I think they came into the sport a couple of years ago, and they focused on getting this engine and working on their engine programs, and it shows on both sides, on the Nationwide and in the Cup side.
Krista.
Down here with Justin Allgaier. Now, last year, I remember your teammates, Kurt Busch, was giving you some laps around here, kind of teaching you the place. How much different is it the second time around back here?
Oh, it's a lot different. You know, coming back here for the second time is so much fun. I mean, you know, last year, this was really kind of one of the first races that I was doing with Penske Racing, and it was one of the first races with Verizon on board, and I was nervous. And now coming back a year later, I'm a lot more relaxed, and, you know, this place is so much fun. I think that's one thing that that's one reason why all the drivers like it here. This place is just a blast, and so far this weekend we're having a lot of fun, and the car is really good on top of that, so that makes it even more fun.
All right, thanks, Justin. He started 11th here last year, Bob.
Well, Krista, Kyle Petty wanted to know if this guy was flat out around the racetrack, so let's ask you, did you ever lift?
It was pretty close. 3 and 4, I felt like I was really wide open. 1 and 2, barely breathe a little bit, man, but this place got a lot of grip. My old man told me to really get after it because we got a good backup car, so I took his advice, but our 5-hour Toyota handled really good, and you know, we're real excited about it. I feel like I got a good race car, and these Toyotas, man, they're really fast here.
Steve Wallace, 7th in points right now.
Bob's teammate Brendan Gaughan, a Las Vegas native on the racetrack, 3rd overall in his first lap.
He's up to 2nd as far as our pointer's concerned, and our tracker. But through 1 and 2, he had to blip it a little bit that lap. He blipped it a little bit in 3 and 4. The first time through, Kyle, he never lifted through 3 and 4.
No, he never lifted. How do you think Rusty's going to react when Steven said, "My old man"? That's good. My old man, my dad, my owner said it's okay.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Man.
Yeah, my old man said it was okay. That's good.
Do you think the king would let you get by and call him an old man?
No, we were talking yesterday. The king's got the longest finger in the world, and it would be in my chest right now. I'm your father. I'm not your old man.
Well, Stephen Wallace and Brendan Gaughan in Toyotas 1-2 teammates. As we take a look at our Toyota track description, 1.5 miles with 20 degrees of banking.
And it's all about that banking, guys. We finally got back to a little bit after California. You come here, you got yourself a good transition on and off, I think, turns 2 as well as 4. In and out of these corners, Kyle. I mean, that's where you find the speed in this racetrack.
Yeah, you know, it's from the center off. These guys, you never, as a driver, you always think, okay, I can drive deeper and I can make up time. And you make up time in that one corner singular. But if you can go back to the gas and make that straightaway longer, then you make up time. And that's the big deal at a place like this. And that's why when we talk about these guys running wide open around the racetrack or just letting the car take a set, it's just keeping the balance of the car and making that straightaway as long as possible.
And going back to what your father said, my daddy told me one time, son, I was your maker and I'll be your taker if you keep talking to me like that.
I've had a lot of people tell me that, man.
Yeah. 25-year-old Kelly Byers. He drives for Dale Earnhardt Jr., his teammate Danica.
And take a quick look here coming
Great
off of
first
turn
lap.
2. He is right there looking like he could be the guy who may unseat young Stephen Wallace.
By the way, I read the HendrickCars.com. They have 6,000 automobiles online for sale. That might be confusing for me.
Yeah.
I want to buy the 48 car. That's the car I want to buy.
Right.
The 48
is that
car.
online?
Is that for sale?
How about Kelly Byers?
You may want to buy the 88.
He's just buy that one. He's in a Chevrolet, and he's quickest. We'll be right back. Mike Bliss in the 40 car. He is 4th of 10 drivers who have taken time here on the mile-and-a-half Las Vegas Motor Speedway as NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying continues. Overcast skies and a threat of rain, but so far so good here in Vegas. Front row, Joe Nemechek on track, and let's go to Krista, who has a Las Vegas native.
That's right, and that would be Kyle Busch. Kyle, okay, you checked it off your Cup list here last year, but the Nationwide Series has still kind of thrown you for a loop. Is this the year that you check that one off the list?
I don't know. We'll see. You know, the Z-Line Camry was really fast yesterday, so we feel good about it. We just got to get ourselves a good, solid qualifying lap here and then see what we can get and how the race plays out today if we race. So weather's not bad. Being a Vegas native, I think we're okay, actually. I see some blue over that way, so we'll see what it turns out.
All right, race car driver and weather forecaster today. Thanks, Kyle.
Of course, Kyle won the Sprint Cup Series race here 1 year ago.
Front row Joe's got a pretty good second lap going here, guys.
Wow.
He's up 3rd quick.
Just a minute ago, we were all Toyotas, and now we've got 3 Chevys in the top 5.
Back to Bob.
Here is another Vegas native, Brendan Gaughan, and you let your teammate squeak one out over you. What's that about?
That's all right, you know, Steve-O, as long as it's one of our Toyotas up front. He had a hell of a lap. I mean, a 60-something. You know, Kelly just beat him, but I think that'll keep both of us in the top 10. And, you know, it's Vegas Fleet, baby. You got to keep the South Point near the front somewhere, and I'll just try to keep it there all day.
And remember, Brendan Gaughan does have a victory here in the Camping World Truck Series.
And a Winston West Series victory for all you Steve Portengay fans.
But let's also remind you one thing right there. That was on the old track.
That's right, the old configuration.
Old configuration.
That's true.
Russell Wenrich, one of our stat geniuses, says, pay no attention to stats prior to the reconfiguration here at Las Vegas. Pay no attention.
Yeah, so it's like it wasn't a racetrack prior to the reconfiguration.
Correct.
Yeah.
What time's your autograph signing,
Is that what you're saying? We didn't race here, right?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't. We never raced here.
We're supposed to forget what they did at Darlington also.
Right, exactly.
Just because they moved the front straightaway
to the back straightaway.
I mean, you know.
Pay no attention to the reconfiguration.
Well, he's on
look
NASCAR
at
Race
this.
Hub now.
I know.
New
How about
Paul
Harvick's
Sitter.
lap?
Whoop, on the first lap, guys.
But what? Almost a 10th and a half.
Yep, 29.49.
Wow.
183.113 miles per hour.
Look at that throttle trace. He's not come out of it.
No.
Which, by the way, boys, sets a new track record in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, breaking Scott Speed's one-year-old record.
Steve,
wow.
We had a new track record. Now we have a newer track
That's
record.
a fact.
Wow.
Lordy.
29.18.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Let me tell you, there's got to be nothing sweeter than to say pole by half a second
fourth consecutive year that a track record has been set.
You know what you say about that, Kyle? Get you some of that.
Get you some.
Yes,
You beat that, you just beat it.
That's one of those true statements when a driver gets out, and you hear them say it sometimes. If somebody can beat that, they deserve to be on the
have
pole.
at
You know
it.
what I mean? Yeah, go ahead, man.
2 Sprint Cup practices coming up here on Speed later today, 1:30 and 2:30 Eastern. Bob?
Well, Steve, let's do a little comparison. Kelly Byers just got knocked off by Kevin Harvick. Last weekend, he qualified 32nd, finished 7th. This time, you're near the top of the chart, so what can we expect in the race from you?
Well, it's all we worked on yesterday was race trim, so we figured maybe qualifying was going to get rained out, but the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet has been good all weekend right off the truck. Everyone's did a great job. I had to redeem myself after last week. I qualified 32nd. I felt bad about it for the guys, but we recovered good, finished 7th, and we got a really good race car, so look forward to racing later today.
Kelly Byers, one word to describe Harvick's run: wow.
Yeah, that's what we said.
I think that's what a lot of people in the garage area say. But you know, yesterday we had a couple of cars that were really good. Biffle and those guys, Biffle and Carl, and the Roush Fords. They're going to be tough. You know, when qualifying, we get to them in the order here. Okay,
Statisticians, I mean, you know,
you have a sticky note.
Technicalities here. They're saying the track banking was completely changed from 12 degrees to 20 degrees here. Darlington and Atlanta were just flipped. Okay.
Correct. No, I'm going to argue about Atlanta. They changed the whole front stretch at Atlanta.
Not the banking.
That's true.
Not the banking.
That's true. They left the front stretch flat.
Hey, I just want to ask you one question. Straightforward question. Darlington is still in Darlington, right? Same racetrack.
Yep.
Same location.
Same location.
Atlanta, same location.
Yep.
Didn't move the track or anything like
They
that.
just
correct?
flip-flop both of them.
Okay, here at Las Vegas, did we move the track?
No.
Nope.
Still Las Vegas,
And
right?
didn't flip-flop.
But let's
Okay.
be honest. Let's be honest. I don't even know why we have stat guys, because the only stat that counts is the W in the column.
That's right.
Okay, that's the only stat that counts. See you guys.
Concrete or asphalt, right?
Concrete or asphalt. Big W in the column. That's all that matters. That's the stat right there. How many trophies you got at home, baby?
That's right. Let's go back to Bob.
New track record for Kevin Harvick here at Las Vegas, and we want to know, did you lift and did you breathe at all?
I didn't breathe, and I think I lifted a little bit, so good lap for our Ream Chevrolet. It's been really good since we've unloaded the thing, so I'm looking forward to racing today, and hopefully that'll get us in the top 5 somewhere, and we'll go from there.
Wait a second, you think that can be beat?
Oh, I think so. Anything can be beat. This is racing.
Oh boy, Kevin Harvick laying it down here. Do you think he can be beat today, guys?
I think that's what you call a subliminal challenge.
But I like what he said. I think I might have lifted a little bit, but I didn't breathe. You know what I mean?
I know for a fact.
I know for a fact I didn't breathe, and that's a good statement right there.
And I started to tell him the throttle responder up here did not, transponder up here did not show him lifting.
No, not at all.
Kyle was watching intently, I might add.
19-year-old Trevor Bayne is the 15th driver to qualify.
He got a pretty good lap going. He rolled out of it a little bit in between 1 and 2 there. Just to let and sometimes you have to just feather out of it to let the car change direction, because you just keep driving through the front tires. And you got to get off that front end sometimes just to let the car rotate.
4th overall for Trevor Bayne. So it's Chevrolet, Toyota, Toyota. Coming up, Scott Lagasse, John West Townley, and Brian Keselowski here at Vegas. Tomorrow, the biggest names in NASCAR are on NASCAR Race Day from Las Vegas. Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, and the Busch Brothers join us live. NASCAR Race Day built by the Home Depot, live from Vegas tomorrow, noon Eastern, only on Speed. Scott Lagasse in the 43 car is 9th overall of 15 drivers who have qualified. Kevin Harvick in a Chevrolet is the quickest, and Kelly Byers, also in a Chevrolet, is 2nd.
Pretty good lap by Lagasse. You know, he had trouble the first practice, had a line come loose. So they missed a lot of the first practice getting that thing fixed and trying to get it going again to start the second one. John West Townley here, he had a great lap yesterday. Remember we talked about him right at the end of practice? He jumped up to like 4th or 5th, and then got knocked back to like 7th or 8th, but that was a great lap out of nowhere.
I mean, he qualified really well in California,
6th
RCR car, and I kind of not surprised that the speed is in the car, but I'm really, you know, glad for John West Townley that he's showing he's adapted to this faster race car, better race car, and responded well by getting good qualifying laps, just like he did here. All of a sudden, first lap, he is 5th quickest.
Well, to Kyle's point yesterday about these younger drivers, John West Townley, just 20, they've got to make the laps. And it's the only way to get experience.
Yeah, the only way to get experience is in a car. You know, we talk so much about iRacing and video games and all that stuff. Let me tell you something. There's no way to replicate hitting a wall unless you hit a wall. I'm sorry. You know, that's what the King always told me when I started. He's like, look, I can tell you how to do this, but you got to go out there and do it. You got to crash. You got to run up front. You got to do your stuff.
John West Townley
it is
up to third. Krista?
Standing by here with Mississippi native Ricky Stenhouse. So Mississippi and Las Vegas, I imagine there's a lot of similarities there.
Not even close, not even close. But, you know, we're enjoying it. We're out here racing our Roush Fenway #6 Ford Fusion. It's kind of blank this weekend. We're going to try to put on a good show and maybe get some sponsorship throughout the rest of the season. City Financial's been a great partner with us, and they're a primary sponsor for 18 of our races, and we're looking for the other half, but hopefully we can have a good weekend this weekend and turn this year around.
All right, thanks. Yeah, Roush Fenway, very good at this track.
A lot of similarities. He should have given them a shout out to Biloxi, Mississippi, man. They got nice casinos.
Yeah, they have gaming.
Yeah, they got great gaming down there, man. I'm telling you, we've been through there a couple times with the charity ride.
How old is Ricky Stenhouse?
Yeah, well, maybe that's true. He probably doesn't know they have gaming.
He hasn't had the opportunity.
My bad.
It's like Kyle says, they can walk through the casino, but they have to keep moving.
My
Exactly
bad.
right.
That's my bad on that one. I'm sorry.
Well, Brian Keselowski is 28. He can gamble.
All right, that's good.
Well, Stenhouse is just 22, so he's only had an opportunity for really a year to be able to hang out in those places.
Keselowski finished 34th last weekend at the Auto Club Speedway in California. Older brother to Brad Keselowski, who's driving for Penske this year.
That's, you know, it's cool about this sport. You know, he's Brad's older brother, but they're dead. Ron and Bob, you know, when you looked at that, their dad and their uncle used to race. That, you know, that's what I like to see. Obviously, I grew up in the sport, but when you see the Parsons and the Pattys and the Allisons and the Waltrips and people like that, that is what, to me, that still epitomizes and says what this sport's all about.
Well, Brad was on trackside, I think was it Daytona, Jeff? And he said he got his feistiness from his mom, Kay.
What you're talking about there, though, has to be the continuation of the family tradition.
But I'm going to tell you, nobody worked harder on cars than his dad and his uncle. I'm telling you, I remember when I was a little boy and they dragged that Superbird to the racetrack. They worked their rear ends off to get those things in race, and did a great job. You know, and because they weren't from the South, they didn't come from the South where the hotbed of racing was.
And Kyle, when the Truck Series started back in '95, Bob Keselowski, he was a mainstay. I mean, he was there every week.
Yes, he was, man, and a Dodge guy. And I think they've always bled Mopar, man. They've always bled Mopar.
Justin Allgaier, 23-year-old from Riverton, Illinois, 4th in the points.
You know, Justin had a really good year last year.
He did.
And there were places that, as a rookie, that he just picked up on, and there were places as a rookie that he was just lost on. And he said that over the winter. I talked to him a couple of times, and that was his, you know, I think he truly is. You saw the interview earlier. He's excited to be coming to some of these places for the second and third time because he just feels that confident. And being in a Penske car, you got to be confident.
Kyle, he said last year that his biggest problem was really patience. He wasn't, you know, he was fast and good equipment, but it was patience. That's what he had to learn.
Yeah, but when you're that age, patience is going to be it. You know what I mean? Patience is not a virtue when you're that age. That's one of the fastest first laps we've seen right there.
I'll say his second quickest as far as the first lap, only to Kevin Harvick, our pole sitter. And I want to go back to something that Kevin said as we watched the 12 car come off of turn 4. He's got a good lap. Didn't look like he's going to pick up wide enough to really unseat or move up because hold that third position with that lap. Is it what Kevin said about that time can be beat? Because when you look at who's got to come out here yet, Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, Brian Scott, Brian Vickers, and Kyle Busch, all were faster than Kevin Harvick in practice yesterday. So there's still some good cars to come that could unseat him.
And just ahead, Michael Annett, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch.
And the weather's not changing that much. Nope. So the track conditions and the speed should be there.
You know, when we get to the Annett, you know, Annett, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch, 3 Toyotas, and we've talked about how fast the Toyotas have been. But, you know, when you look at the 20 car with Hamlin or Joey Logano when he drives it, and the 18 with Kyle Busch, I mean, let's go back for a year or more. They're the guys to beat every week, week in and week out, whether it comes qualifying or race time. You know, it's funny. I think if you threw a tracer, when you watch these guys, that you're sitting at home watching every one of these drivers qualifying, we're down to Michael, and he's the 19th car to go out. Almost every one of them run the same line. It's on. I mean, they're in the same place. I bet you could overlay the first 19 cars, and they're in the same place. They're there at different times. Obviously, some get to the corner faster than others. But I mean, nobody's running way up the racetrack or in the middle. They arc it in. That's a little bit different. But in the middle, they're right on that white line, and coming off, they just let the car have its head and drift up the racetrack.
With what you're talking about, that illustration makes me think about what I saw on Olympic during the bobsled deal. When they did that overlay of one sled versus another, where they're on the track as far as speed's concerned and where they're picking up and losing. It would be the ghost car, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, you know what would be cool is if you had the ghost car, but you could lay all 43 cars out there, because they would always be right on top of each other. Because I'm telling you, 2/10 on the racetrack is not a whole corner.
Right.
It's not a whole straightaway. Everybody would be in the same place. It'd look like a Talladega pack going through the corner if you could do qualifying speeds.
Michael Annette, 8th overall, Des Moines, Iowa native. And I give Iowa a shout out for Krista Voda. Krista, do you have your Iowa notepad?
Wait, I do. Let me see. Now, this is really sad, though. Yeah, I use an Iowa basketball notepad, but it's not even current. Reggie Evans hasn't played there for probably about 5 years.
Well, that's you're still showing the colors.
You're showing your age.
It still has paper in it, so it's good to go.
Right.
I haven't retired it yet.
We're here for you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the shout-out, Steve.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to tell you this. I was at Daytona this year during a media day, and an older reporter that will remain nameless here walked in with a notepad, and I'm going to tell you what it was. Chattanooga Chew, Larry Pearson.
No way.
Chattanooga Chew, Larry Pearson, my God. And I'm like, that's old school. When you come to Daytona with that old school, because, I mean, that's back early 80s, mid-80s. And I'm thinking, this man's writing stories where everybody else has computers and Twitter and everything else. He's writing stories on 30-year-old paper, man. And that's cool. You can't argue that.
You might want, as Mr. Ken Squire would say, hold the phone. Here comes Hamlin.
Yes, sir.
First lap, second quickest as far as first laps are concerned. Can he pick up enough to challenge Mr. Harvick? I mean, he's right there.
And that car looked good coming up out of 2. You were talking earlier about the racetrack being a little bit bumpy and the car's just porpoising a little bit. That car went over the bumps really good as it came up out of 2. Wow.
Good job. Shut her down for me there, save some fuel.
So Kevin Harvick hangs on to the pole. Denny Hamlin second. And let's go back to Bob.
Justin Allgaier with a great run in qualifying, but you don't look super happy.
No, we're happy. You know, Verizon Dodge guys did a great job all weekend long, and we've got a really fast race car. You know, unfortunately here at Vegas, it's all about being up front, and the guy that's up front usually with the clean air is going to be the fastest. So we felt like we could be a little better than we were, but you know, right now we're sitting 4th, and I think that, you know, hopefully that'll hold up to at least about a top 7. And I think if we can qualify there, it'll be a great day for us tomorrow, or to this afternoon, I guess now.
He said he tried not lifting, but it didn't work, guys.
Thanks, Bob. Kyle, you know what I remember? Pearson used to wear, remember they used to wear those engineer hats instead of baseball hats?
Instead of baseball hats, yeah.
Bobby Batson did PR.
Bobby Batson, man, that's good.
That's a good pull.
That was good. That was good. But I mean, when you look back, and Larry just dominated this series. Yep. When you look at Larry, you know, Larry and Ricky and David was always at the racetrack.
And Eddie,
another family group, Eddie
Pearson.
And they just dominated this series for so many years back then.
Larry would go to a short track like Hickory or South Boston, Myrtle Beach, and run the same lap time every single lap.
Yeah, from the time qualifying to the last lap of the race. It didn't make, but that's the deal, and that's the funny thing about racing. It's not, and we're sitting here watching qualifying. That's a great first lap. That's almost the same first lap for Kyle Busch that Harvick had on the first lap. So he's hovering right there at it. But you know that's the deal. If you can run those consistent laps, that's what racing's all about. It's not about being the fastest guy in the race. It's about putting together that 500 laps that are the most consistent laps.
Kyle Busch to the start-finish line.
Wow.
Nope.
No,
right,
he got
there
all
with
the
his
good
teammate.
He got all the good out of that one on the first lap, and that was a great first lap, man. That's as close to Harvick.
But he did have to play with the throttle just a little bit. That's the biggest difference I've seen so far between he and Kevin Harvick.
Krista.
Carl Edwards was just talking to his new, I guess, make that old crew chief, back with Drew Blickensderfer.
Yeah, it's great to be back with Drew, and we got a great Copart fusion. We were just talking about, you know, how hard do we go here? How, you know, do we go out there and lay it on the table and try to get that super fast lap? Or
What's the answer?
Well, I don't know. I don't know yet. We'll see how it feels the first lap. Looks like the second lap's pretty good. So, you know, Colin and Ricky are going to go here now, and I'll listen to what they say, and we'll decide then. But, you know, the weather is perfect. Some pretty fast times out there.
All right. Thanks, Carl. Bob?
Just that Denny Hamlin sitting second quick so far, and I want to know, are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bad qualifier. It's going to be an ongoing process, especially on the Cup side. Yeah, I qualify about 25th every week, and I talked to Kyle before qualifying here because I've been 3/10 off of him pretty much the whole weekend, and trying to figure out what I need to do to be a better qualifier overall. I think this will help on the Cup side, and gave me a few pointers, and obviously it helped us out a little bit.
What were the pointers?
Can't tell you that.
I figured that, Steve.
Good try.
Good try.
You tried to sneak it in, Bob. Well, speaking of sneaking in, Colin Brown, 4th quickest in his Ford. They're looking for sponsorship on that car, and you heard Ricky Stenhouse talk about it. They have a sponsorship for half a season on both cars.
Now, he's losing just a little bit here on the second lap compared to everybody else. He's actually going to slow down just a little bit, but I think this is what exactly Carl Edwards was looking for. Get me some information. He knows where his car was in comparison to Colin. After that final practice, he was 9th quickest, where Carl was 2nd quickest. So maybe there's a chance that somebody could come up here and challenge Kevin Harvick.
Kyle, I love playing Where Are They Now? You know what Larry Pearson is doing these days?
No.
He's got a driver's ed school up
Does he
in
really?
Spartanburg, South Carolina. Yep.
And that's good. But I won't tell you.
He's doing great.
He was like David. He was smooth as silk, man. You'd watch him run, and you couldn't tell he was making any time. And the next thing you know, he's got a lap on the field. And that's a cool program, man.
He'd use that bumper too, by the way.
Yeah, that was the Nationwide Series. Everybody. Jack Ingram had the 3 and you're out rule. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, he'd give you 2 tries to get around, and if you didn't get out of the way, man, you were out, and he was gone.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 22 years old, from Olive Branch, Mississippi.
And the Iron Man would also put an iron boot in your behind
Yes,
if you didn't like what he did.
No, but
with Tommy Houston and those guys, Tommy Ellis, Jimmy Hensley.
Those guys did, when you look back on it, those guys did more with less than anybody you'll ever know in any kind of industry.
Guys, check us
because
out.
they love the cars.
Stenhouse was flirting with having a really fast lap. Good first lap, though.
He didn't really lose a lot right there, but he was in the wrong place on the racetrack. It looked like coming up.
He used a lot more racetrack.
Yeah.
He was out of that perfect groove you've been talking about.
Yeah, he would be somebody that would stick out right there.
And Kyle, you made this point yesterday. You talk about depth of organizations. This is Stenhouse's first time ever on this racetrack in a Nationwide Series car. He's top 5.
But and that comes from being able to work with Roush, from being able to work with Carl Edwards, from being able to work with Greg Biffle.
1 and 2 on that second lap.
See, and that's what we were talking about. Yeah. You saw him overdrive it. He just overdrove, got out of the groove, and it killed his second lap, even though it was a little over a tenth faster. But, that's what these drivers have now that is so cool, is they can come into a Roush organization. They can come into a Hendricks organization. They can come into a Gibbs organization, and they're already a leg up on a guy who's not with that organization, because you've got the experience of those drivers that have been to these places 100 times, like Roush has won so many times out here. So you're set when you get there. And I don't mean set. You still have to drive the race car, but you have a leg up on these guys.
The support team, when I was with Roush, when we brought Kurt Busch up from the Truck Series, the ability to go take a computer overlay of a lap from somebody like a Mark Martin or Jeff Burton. You go run your lap, and you come back and they do an overlay. This is where you were on the brake compared to what Mark was at or Jeff. This is where you turned in. This is where you carry your throttle pickup. All those things for a driver is like, okay, I got back in the gas too quick here. They didn't, and yet they beat me off the corner because you jumped into it and made the car do something erratic. They would go back and redo that lap the next time out, and all of a sudden they're doing the same thing these guys are, and the speed comes right to them.
It's funny. There's nothing harder to teach a young driver. And you hear owners talk about, I'd always rather have a driver I had to pull back than a driver I had to push forward. You know what I mean? That I had to kick in the butt. But there's nothing harder to teach a young driver than to say, okay, you need to let off early to make time around this racetrack, because young guys just want to run. That's all they care about. They just
like Kyle Petty at Rockingham.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but it's like it's like you watch jockeys with thoroughbreds. They know how to hold a horse and when to let the horse go. And an experienced rider and an experienced driver understands that, but a young driver, they just want to go. So you have that experience with the overlay, like Jeff was talking, to say, hey, you don't have to drive all the way to the center of the corner. You're not getting graded on bravery today.
Right.
You're getting graded on speed, and it's all about getting this thing around a racetrack.
Chad Blunt, 24th driver to take time, 19th overall. Interesting, that 10 car that Chad Blunt was driving, the season opening race at at Daytona. Jason Leffler drove the 10 car last week. It was David Rudiman. Brian Vickers up next in the 32 car, Dollar General. Sponsorship on that car.
And he was a top 4 or 5 car yesterday in practice, I think.
He was. He has a pole here. Vickers does in 4 Nationwide Series starts. Best finish, 3rd a year ago. Vickers finished 5th at Daytona, 8th at California. He's going to share this ride with Reed Sorensen in 2010.
Yeah, a little bit like that Chad Blunt car that comes out of Todd Braun's stables. He's got a pretty deep driver pool and quite a few good cars here at Vegas. Entire year he's going to be mixing and matching quite a different group.
We talked
to make it work.
Yeah, we talked about Trent Owens being crew chief on this car and some of that. We talked yesterday about drivers going back and forth and seat locations and car location. How hard is it to be a crew chief and have multiple drivers come in and drive your car during the year?
Let me tell you, I experienced that when Darrell got hurt back when I was working at Hendrick Motorsports, and it's not much fun as we watch the 32 car go up to 5th quickest here for Brian Vickers. It is quite a challenge, and it's a challenge when you're going through different ones. We had a driver, if you remember him at Watkins Glen that year, Cyril Vandermervers.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a great international star, but working with him as far as the communications and understanding, it's like, whew, drove me crazy. I mean,
what about Irv Hare?
Where's the hat you're drawing these names out of?
Tommy Riggins.
Where's the hat you're pulling these names out of over there?
Don't forget Butch Lightsinger.
I know. Oh, Butch Lightsinger. That's too current, though.
I know you just got to be pulling them out of a hat because you're sitting on your rear end right there, so you're not pulling them there, okay?
Hey, guys, we better straighten up here. We may have a challenge for the pole here. Just took the racetrack with Carl Edwards.
I was having too much fun playing Busch Series flashback.
Trivia.
Look at Carl's hands in there, man.
He's working it.
Yeah, when he turned into the corner there, he turned back to the right just a little bit. And we saw these guys yesterday. They were pretty smooth in practice running, but at the same time, they were running a second slower yesterday in practice than what, with their old tires and with the sun out.
Well, Kyle, right now, watching the tracker, he is on pace to be equal to what Kevin ran on his first lap, was a 29.49. Let's see if he can do that. Actually quicker. He is the fastest first lap of the day.
Wow.
Ruh-roh, we lost our tracker.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you what, man. The car
looked surprise for us.
Yeah, the car was smooth right there, and he drops it right down on the line and just lets it drift up, and he's right in the black part of the racetrack right there.
Be close.
Second quick.
P2.
Second quick for Carl Edwards. Halfway through NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying and no rain. Stay with us here in Vegas. Monday night, stop by the Hub for your NASCAR fix. We'll recap the action from Vegas and look forward to Hot Atlanta. Don't miss NASCAR Race Up presented by Hooters Monday night, 7:30 Eastern, only on Speed. 19-year-old, I feel like I keep saying that, 19-year-old James Buescher, 12th overall in the 1 car, and our new daddy, Carl Edwards, standing by with Bob Dillner.
All right, Carl Edwards faster than the pole sitter or provisional pole sitter Kevin Harvick on the first lap. So what happened on the second lap, man?
I just ran out of steam. That's all we've got. So it's a good lap for us. So, I mean, this Copart Fusion's good. I'd really rather start on the outside. So, hopefully that's where we'll end up starting is second. And I think we got a great race car for the race. It's amazing how fast everybody's going right now. There's a lot of grip out there, and it's a lot of fun. But man, I really wanted that pole, but I did all I could do, and it was really close. My guys did a great job, so it'll be a fun race.
Got to ask you, how's the baby?
The baby's doing great, and it's still sinking in. I woke up this morning, and I talked to Kate, and she's sending me pictures on my phone and stuff, and it's just it's the greatest thing in the world.
And Steve Burns, he said he has changed diapers.
Of course he has. Of course he has, Bob. He's hands-on.
Okay, we're not getting into another baby show today. We had that yesterday. My man Kenny Wallace here. These guys, they're racing on a budget this year, and he practices none. I think he practiced 3 or 4 laps at California and then qualified. And here he comes in out here and practices just a few laps yesterday, but that's a good lap for him. No more time than he's had on the racetrack. He's had some good runs at Daytona and at California.
Let's go back to Krista.
With the defending winner of this race, Greg Biffle, and you guys, Baker Curb gave them their first top 5 last year. It's really cool what you guys are doing with this team.
Yeah, we really are. I'll tell you, these guys, Ricky Byers is a crew chief, and all the guys at Baker Curb, they're working really, really hard to give me good cars, and our Roush Yates engines are running really good, so I'm just happy to be driving this car. You know, I was going to be without a job in the Nationwide Series, and these guys come along with Red Man Moist Snuff, so pretty happy about it.
All right, and he's going to go for that 29.185 of Kevin Harvick.
I'm glad she kind of brought that up, because he was the fastest cat here yesterday in practice. I'm talking about Greg Biffle, so he still goes late in the field. He don't go out till 38th. So we've got a little ways to wait. This thing might not be over with as far as Kevin Harvick's concerned.
Jeff, taking a glance at our timing and scoring monitor, it looks like 6 drivers have broken the track record set last year by Scott Speed.
You know, we've been talking about, you know, the new tire that Goodyear brought here just like last week at California. It seemed like it has helped the handling and put speed into these race cars. But also, Kyle, we can't overemphasize this is ideal conditions to run fast.
Yeah, this is the perfect conditions. But I also think when you look at going to a place like this and so many cars breaking a track record as Brad Keselowski finishes his with that's 45 on his first lap. That's a great first lap. When you look at it, I think you look at the thing and you say, this sport never sits still. The engines get better, the aero gets better. He's on a stop right now.
Yeah,
he's on a pole run.
He's on a pole run.
Harvick's probably sitting in the bus watching this one because that's pretty stout. But the sport never sits still. Goodyear comes with better tires. The competitors get better. Everything gets better.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Yes, sir. Brad Keselowski, 29.12, 185.43 miles per hour.
Kevin Harvick called it, guys. You can't be beat.
Robert Richardson Jr., the 30th driver to qualify, and guys, he's not going to be happy with that. He is just 29th overall. Let's go to Bob.
Down here with Brad Keselowski, who just jumped out of the car and gave his PR guy a high five. How about that?
Man, I'm so proud of Paul, everybody on this Discount Tire Dodge team, Penske Racing. I'm terrible qualifying these cars. I'm just terrible. I mean, you can look at my track record. I'm about the worst there is. So what an accomplishment for this team. We just got out there and, you know, pulled the belts tight and ran it as hard as it would go and didn't breathe for about 60 seconds. But awesome lap. I just can't tell you how proud I am of this crew and brand new race team. I really thought that lap Kevin laid down was untouchable. And we did it. So awesome job to everybody back there at Penske Racing and here at the track. This is an awesome feat.
6/100ths of a second he's on top by.
That Paul he's talking about is Paul Wolf. He's crew chief. It was a pretty incredible lap. It really is.
Yeah, I don't care. I still find this amazing, you know. And sitting at home, it's hard to understand this. But when these guys say they don't breathe, you know what I mean? You just pull. You do breathe. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, when you get to that corner, you just go, and you hunker down in that thing, and you turn it into the corner, and when you get to the backstretch, it's like, okay, I can breathe because I'm in a straight line here. Because it does. I mean, these guys, to run wide open on a 1.5-mile racetrack, if we go back 10 years, was unheard of.
Oh, yeah.
Unheard of. Tire technology wasn't there. Aero wasn't there. And it just amazes me every time I see them do it.
John Borneman III, the first of the go or go home drivers to qualify. Keep in mind, 51 drivers here. Can Keselowski hang on to the pole? NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying continues. Overcast skies, but to this point, no rain. Brad Keselowski is the man to beat. Andy Ponstein, the second of the go or go home drivers to qualify. He is 29th overall.
You mentioned Keselowski, and we've been talking about breaking track records. He comes back and he tops the new track record that Kevin Harvick had just set. I mean, by 6/100ths of a second. I mean, that was just an unbelievable lap.
And you know, right now we're sitting here and you got Keselowski, you got Harvick, you got Edwards, and you got Hamlin. You got Dodge, you got Chevy, you got Ford, and you got Toyota. That's what NASCAR tries to do in every series, whether it be the Truck Series or the Nationwide Series or the Cup stops, and that's pretty impressive right there.
And let's refresh qualifying rules rules here for the Nationwide Series. Top 30 in owner points as opposed to top 35 in Sprint Cup locked in.
Yeah, we're now into that process of go or go homer. So we've already had, this is the third one right here with Jeremy Clements here in the 04 car. And he is the fastest of the go or go homers. He's 25th currently. And again, it's going to be real tight. It looks like the speeds are really coming down. These guys are laying down some pretty impressive laps.
Yeah, you know, I'm a huge supporter of the top 35 on the Cup Series and having that protection zone for these guys. But I'm telling you, man, watching this, the top 30 is pretty cool because it adds another 5 of guys that are able to race in, and
got to get it done. Got to get it done.
Coming up, Stephen Light, Shelby Howard, and Danny Eflin. Stay with us here in Vegas. Stephen Light, 26th overall, but perhaps more importantly, he is second quick of the 4 go or go home drivers who have qualified.
Kyle, I noticed that you're over there with your BlackBerry doing a little bit of work, and I know a lot of times we get Darrell Waltrip. He'll send us text messages a lot of times when he's here. We take a look at the Air Force Thunderbirds practicing here at Nellis Air Force Base. But, you know, do drivers, you know, text you a lot of times when you're on the air and give you information or give you a hard time? Because I know Darrell loves giving me and Larry a hard time.
There's one guy in particular down there in the bus lot that has been texting me all morning with things, and I keep threatening to say I'm on the air, but I'm not going to.
And some
tips
humor.
And stuff, and a lot of humor, a lot of humor. One of the things was, and I will say this, he wanted to know who I got fired to get this gig, because he thinks every time I get a new gig, I've got somebody fired. Okay, so that's just his way of busting on me.
Oh, me.
Shelby Howard on the racetrack now. We go back to Krista.
And Brian Scott turning heads here in the Nationwide Series. Now, you're a West Coast guy. Did you get to go back home and visit some family?
Yeah, it was really neat. After California, I spent a couple days in Palm Springs and then went back to Boise, Idaho, and got to see some people and family and friends I haven't seen in a while. And that's nice. It's a good way to reset your mind and get ready for the next race. So I'm excited to be here, and I think we're going to have a good run.
How's the wrist?
The wrist is still the same. It's still broken, but looking forward to Vegas. We got StopRepairBills.com back on our Toyota after they were on it in Daytona. Really excited to have them back, and hopefully we can crash the party a little bit like we did last week. Go up there and try to break up the top 3 that are other manufacturers, get our Toyota up there and have another run, hopefully keep turning heads.
All right, thanks, Brian. Yeah, and Steve, he broke that wrist back in June in a truck. It's been almost a year.
Krista, I read that he's trying to decide whether to have surgery now or wait till after the season. We'll talk about crashing the party. How about Shelby Howard, 15th overall?
What a lap.
That was a great run, man. And these are guys that have to qualify. And we talked about this yesterday. Some of the guys in the top 30 never made a qualifying attempt. Some of these guys, all they did was make qualifying attempts because they got to get in. And when you have half the field that doesn't try to qualify and another 10 or 15 that do, it's going to mix up the qualifying. Yep. The qualifying order here a little bit.
And it's also going to give a lot of these guys who thought they could beat one guy heart failure because all of a sudden they lay down a lap like that and say, oh my gosh, I got to run that fast.
And the other thing it does, you know, Jason Leffler, we heard him say yesterday, you know, really I need to qualify in the top 10 because if you're not in the top 10 here when the race starts, it's a struggle for you all day long. He's been knocked back to 20th right now, and Howard beat him. Shelby Howard beat him. So these cars can actually put you in a worse position if you're in that top 35 because they keep knocking you back.
Yeah, you trying to pick your way through the traffic to get up there. All of a sudden, you know, guys who got clean air like a Brad Keselowski, he can come around and lap you in a hurry if you're not careful.
If he's going to run 29.12s all day, he's going to lap you in a big hurry.
And a good first lap for Danny Eflin. All of a sudden, you know, making this race is taking on a whole different look. I mean, a lot of times Larry and I were together doing this stuff, or even Hermie Sadler, we'll start looking and figure out where that brake line's going to be. And so far, guys, it looks like you got to run a 30 flat or better to even have a chance maybe making this race. And that's tough.
It's funny. How many times do you go to the racetrack and you don't know, you don't have a clue when qualifying starts where that brake line is going to be? And on a day like today when the racetrack has stayed the same, when qualifying has stayed the same and these guys continue to pick up, man, I don't care whether you're Greg Biffle or Kligerman or whoever you are, these guys that have good cars and should make the race, they're going to struggle, some of these guys.
Good run, Danny.
Fast track to fame, baby.
Saw some of those folks backstage. Jugglers, comedians, singers. It premieres March. Yes, Kyle?
Jugglers and comedians. That's the garage area. What are you talking about, man?
I thought you were going to say that's trackside.
That too.
March 1st, 8 p.m. Eastern for the premiere of Fast Track to Fame. There's the aforementioned Parker Kligerman, 19 years old. I swear I think I've said that more than 3 times.
Parker Kligerman, or in the words of Larry McReynolds, Patrick Klingerman.
Patrick Klinderman.
I felt so bad for Larry that day, man, but that was funny.
But Larry never gave up.
Never gave up, man. And I kept struggling with the Patrick part because I could get the Parker part, you know what I mean? But that was good, man. And he had, I'm going to tell you, this kid drove the wheels off that thing in a few ARCA races last year. Some great racing. He's got a ton of talent.
Kyle, what I like about this kid is he told me his father discouraged him from racing. He said, I'll pay for your racing for 1 year.
Yeah.
Then after that, he was on his own, borrowed money, scraped money together. He was completely on his own, and he's making it.
And you know, that's a kid that wants to do it. And that's the way you have to look at it. And he's got a good lap going here. But
he got a great lap.
That's the way you have to look at it. When Adam first started, he wanted to run a late model car. So we bought a late model car, and he and I worked on it together. And one day he quit showing up. Well, when he quit showing up, I quit showing up. I'm not going to build a race car for you. And that's what this kid's father was saying was, hey, if you want to do it, I'll help you get started, but you got to do it.
But here's the advantage that Kyle Petty had, that Adam Petty had. You guys had a history of racing.
Yeah.
He did not. Parker said nobody in his family had ever raced.
And I said it yesterday in a joking manner that it's a genetic flaw that makes you want to be a race car driver, be around racing. Yeah. But it always amazes me when I talk to people and they grow up and they want to be a race car driver or they want to be in racing, because I'm like, I did grow up in it. You know, you grew up around it. We all grew up with it as part of who we were. But, you know, you get guys that come out of California and come out of the Midwest, and you think they never grew up with stock car racing. What made you want to be a race car driver? And that intrigues me as much as anything, talking to some of these young guys and the desire they have to do it.
And here's a good example of somebody who didn't really grow up in the hotbed of racing.
No.
Not at all.
Out where he's Pacific Northwest area, and building cars, building sand buggies and stuff like that, you know, led him down to, of all places, Phoenix, Arizona for the summer winter heat series, Tucson Air winter heat series, and to be discovered by the late Benny Parsons and recommended by Benny to Jack Roush. And Jack Roush said, you know, I like the way this guy does business. I think he's got a great opportunity to make a big move here. And here he is, Greg Biffle, right now. First lap, he's 13th quickest. Not a very impressive first lap, but let's see what Greg can do on his second lap. He's in. That's what he needed to do. That's that solid lap.
That's that solid
he needed to get in with. Now I can go for it.
Yeah, you know, when you're in that position that Biffle's in, you can't go for the pole on the first lap. You can't just hang it all out, because you've got to make sure you're in the race, because that's what you came out here for, not to sit on the pole. Greg Biffle came out here to race.
Tracker's moving, but it's not going to be moving enough. So Brad Keselowski, you can breathe a little easier. He winds up 7th quick.
Greg Biffle, 7th overall, just bought a dirt track in Banks, Oregon. Stay with us. Brad Keselowski, the man to beat. Veteran Mark Green with a good qualifying effort. He is 24th overall, 5th fastest of the go or go home track. Stanton Barrett on the racetrack. I want to mention too, Greg Biffle now locked in by virtue of his run, 7th overall, and there's Stanton Barrett. 37 years old, out of Bishop, California.
Yeah, it's funny because Stanton, you know, his father Stan, okay, that started
the original Skull Bandit.
The original Skull Bandit, and I meant to say this a minute ago when we were talking about some stuff. We're talking about how young these guys are. Harry Gant, when he used to kick everybody's rear end in this series, you'd talk to him in the garage area, and he'd say, yeah, I'm going to go over and teach them old high school boys how to do it. You know, sad part is there are high school boys now, man. They're all high school boys. You know what I mean? That's the funny part. He was talking about going and showing Bobby Labonte and Jeff Burton and Ward Burton and those guys how to get it done at Bristol and Darlington, places like that. And now it's a totally different game, man.
First lap good enough for 23rd quickest for Stanton Barrett.
Good run.
Very decent run right there. Doesn't pick up on the second lap, but it does lock Shelby Howard into the race.
And Stanton's had some great runs, whether it be in Cup cars or nationwide cars through the year. He's just never been able to put together that solid package to do it for a whole year.
Bob Dillner.
Down here with Greg Biffle, and everybody was looking at the 27 car as maybe the car to beat. Was that a lap to your expectations?
You know, I thought it would have been a little faster than that. You know, the car is so good. The car's got such great grip. I held it to the floor from the time I left pit road, so that's 2 laps flat on the board and no brake at all. So that tells me the car's got a lot of downforce in it, you know, which downforce makes a little drag. So when the track gets slick and, you know, handling becomes an issue, this car's going to be really fast. That's what's going to count.
Well said by the owner of Sunset Speedway.
All right, thank you very much, Bob Dillner. 56 car is driven by Kevin LePage. And when he first started racing, I used to think his first name was Shelburne, Vermont. That's how Ken Squire used to refer to him, Shelburne, Vermont's Kevin LePage.
Yeah, but Ken refers to everybody from Vermont or New Hampshire or Maine about where they're from. And you heard him say 25, let's go. You know, which means he needs to pick it up a little bit. You know, he's on a handheld. We got him at a 30-21. Obviously on a handheld, they got him at a 25.
You got to beat 8 to get locked into the show here, and that's what he's trying to do on his second lap. He's definitely moved up a little bit quicker here on his second lap.
Yeah, and this is a funny thing. When you're in this position where you have to qualify, that's all he's got. You
that
heard
might
him say
be good, though, man. That might be good.
That is.
It is.
Yeah, that got him up in there.
That locks Parker Kligerman into the field.
But the funny part is when you're in this position, you got to beat a number of people. So you do it backwards. It's not where am I at in line. It's who did I beat? How many guys did I beat? So you go from the back of the field to the front of the guys that you have to qualify in. And it's a strange way of looking at qualifying. But when you're in that outside the top 30, that's the way you have to look at it.
Well, this car didn't even practice in the final practice yesterday.
I was going to say now, Kyle, what do you think about that move? I mean, to me, that's showing an awful lot of confidence, or is it a lot of arrogance by leaving that car up on jack stands and not having some idea of what the transition went through in that second practice?
Here's the way it works. If he qualifies good or sits on the pole, it's confidence. If he has a bad day, it's arrogance. Okay, so and it's not really. We've all been in that position where you think you're so good, or you think, man, I don't know what to do to make it better.
Yeah.
And the difference is, you know, yesterday when they ran, the racetrack was in a totally different. So you can't say it's one way or the other today, because the racetrack's totally different than what he left the last time he left it on the racetrack yesterday. You know, the first practice. So
he's got a pretty decent first lap coming here.
Got a great lap coming here. To have not been on the racetrack in the last day and the last probably almost 24 hours, that is a really good lap.
12th overall for Paul Menard.
And another thing, guys, maybe we're being a little bit too quick to comment about that. Maybe he was just trying to keep himself focused on his cup car once he got into that mode as far as qualifying yesterday in the 98 car. Maybe he didn't want to have anything kind of confuse him.
And that's a great point, because there is a big difference between nationwide cars and cup cars now. There used to, there was not that big a difference, but now there's a huge difference. And you talk about going back and forth from car to car. He jumps up to 6, man, so he backed up. That's confidence.
That's confidence.
That's confidence, baby.
Can Brad Keselowski hang on to the pole? We'll answer that question and find out who makes the show after this. Great job by Scott Riggs, the 2002 Nationwide Series Rookie of the Year. He locks himself in. And just to update that, Paul Menard, Greg Biffle, Shelby Howard, Scott Riggs, and Parker Kligerman all locked in.
Johnny Chapman here. We talked about him yesterday, and we talked about that team. He crashed first rattle out of the box, man. Spun coming out of 2 over there, got down below the line. And those guys worked their rear, no matter what he runs today, those guys worked their rear ends off to get this car back on the back on the track just at the end of the second practice. So he's got very few laps out there, man.
Johnny's a former Dash Series champion, 4-cylinder cars. You know who'll kill you in Dash Series trivia? Michael Waltrip will kill you. He will eat your lunch.
Well, he's a former champion of the series.
I'm saying he laid Larry Hoopaw on me.
No way.
Larry Hoopaw. That's after I went Mike Swaim on him.
He raced against those guys and ran them hard and won races and was really good there.
Kevin LePage locked in. Johnny Chapman 30th overall. Don't know if that'll make the show, but stay with us. We'll figure it out. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Nationwide qualifying from Vegas is brought to you by the Sponsifier. Visit ToyotaRacing.com and click on Design It, Enter It. I love love. Willie Allen in the 05 has locked himself in. Bumping has started. John Borneman III and Andy Ponstein will not race later today, weather permitting.
Gut check time, guys, for the ones in the car and the ones that are standing out there waiting.
Well, there's your series leader in terms of all-time starts, Jason Keller. Keller will be followed by Morgan Shepherd, Danny O'Quinn Jr., Derek Cope, Dennis Setzer, and Brian Scott.
Jason driving for Mark Smith out of Charlotte, North Carolina this year.
Hoping to make his 494th NASCAR Nationwide Series start.
30-30 on the first lap. That's a decent first lap, you know, for the guys he's racing against.
But
these guys are not
have
going
to
for
go.
the pole.
I know, but he's got to go. Like we talked about,
right.
I think that 30 flat is about where you're going to wind up being safe, and he's not there yet.
But, you know, I think sometimes you're sitting at home and you're looking at it and you're like, well, this guy's got no shot at the pole. That's not what it's about for these guys. It's about getting in the race and being here when this thing's over with.
And unfortunately, right now for Jason, Kyle, it doesn't look like he's going to give himself much of a chance. I think that really has put him in harm's way the way I got it figured out.
I agree with that.
That bumps, however, Stephen Light out and locks Denny Hamlin in.
You know,
so Stephen Light, John Borneman, and Andy Ponstein have been bumped out.
And we look at O'Quinn and Derek and Setzer and some of those guys. Some of these guys, the last 4 or 5 cars, are really good drivers. They're just, the equipment they're in is just not up to snuff right now. You know what I mean? It's got nothing to do with the teams. It's got nothing to do with really that's going on. One accident on pit road. Heck,
on roller skates.
15 wins, 1 accident on pit roads on roller skates. Yeah, we only have one on film, I guess. But then there may be more than that. I don't know. But Morgan's been roller skating his whole life, okay? But when you look at this, you know, it's just the economics of the sport. When you get back into this group of cars here, the guys that don't run on a weekly basis, or at least try to, they just don't have they don't have the economic base that a Roush has or that a Gibbs has. So, I mean, when you come here and think that you run within a second of what some of these guys run with the money they've got, that's pretty phenomenal in itself.
And right quick, we talk about where you want to be. This right here, if you pass that mark on our tracker, that will automatically lock you into the field.
Morgan made Daytona but missed California.
He's got a long way to go. I mean, that's one of the slowest first laps we've had all day long.
Yeah, Morgan's car's moving around a little bit, you know. And when we talk about cars bouncing, and you talk about cars during qualifying, you see this car bounce as it goes to the center of the corner. You know, you're just beat on shock technology. You know, these guys, you go in a Roush truck or you go in a Gibbs truck and they got 100 shocks there. Or they got parts and pieces to make a number of shocks. I won't say 100. That's probably an exaggeration. Morgan really didn't pick it up on the second lap there. But, you know, these guys maybe have 4 shocks or 8 shocks, and they have to rebuild them every time. So they're behind the 8-ball before they start almost.
And unfortunately, Morgan Shepherd will not race. Stanton Barrett is locked in. As the favorites fell in Daytona, Timothy Peters proved he isn't a one-hit wonder. Now the newest truck star leads the field into Atlanta, where everyone runs the ragged edge. Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series live from Atlanta next Saturday, 1:30 Eastern, here on Speed. Danny O'Quinn Jr. clutch performance. In that 90 car, he locks himself into the field, and that bumps Jeremy Clements in the 04. Derek Cope in the 73 will be followed by Dennis Setzer and Brian Scott. And that should be it for Nationwide Series qualifying.
Now, Derek was pretty good in final practice, but he's going to find about, honestly, he's going to be looking for about a half of a second to be able to make this field here today.
But, you know, and that's from yesterday, right? Is that what you're saying? And you know, the racetrack's been a little faster, but for some people, and it's funny because you sit down there and you see other people run 3 and 4 tenths faster, and you think, man, I can go out and pick that up, and you go out and run the same speed. And that's incredibly disheartening. I think we saw it earlier in the day with a couple of cars that just run the same speed they ran yesterday. But the racetrack's capable today of giving you that 2 or 3 tenths. If you can throw in your 2 or 3 tenths as a driver, the racetrack's capable of giving you a little bit today too.
All right, that's 2 tenths faster than he ran yesterday on his first lap. But guys, he's going to have to pick it up if he wants to make this race. Right now he's on track to run about the same speed that Jason Keller did.
You know how we talked earlier, I always hated to be the first guys out. Okay, but I always hated to be the last 4 or 5 guys out too in this position, because when you were the last 4 or 5 out and he picks it up to a 39, but I don't think that's good enough.
It's not. Matter of fact, he will not race, Kyle, but that does lock in Mark Green in the 49 car.
But when you were the last 4 or 5 guys out, you know, you knew at least I didn't like it, but the positive of it was you knew what you had to do. There's that time already up there. You know you got to beat, you know, whatever it is, a 50 or a 30 or whatever it is. You know you got to go out and beat that time. And when you don't do it, at least you know what you're shooting at. But that was, I always like to shoot at the unknown more than I like to have a target sometimes, you know what I mean? Because it's like, yeah, well, I didn't know. If I didn't know I had to run a 50, I'd have run a 50 for you. I'm sorry. I didn't know that, you know?
The problem is you were the target, right?
Yeah, I was always the target. That was the bad part.
Speaking of 50, happy birthday to Dennis Setzer. He turns 50 years old today out of Newton, North Carolina.
You know what he wants for his birthday?
He wants to start the show.
Exactly right. Save the dancing girls and the cake boys. All I want to see is a green flag wave. And right now he is on track to put down a pretty impressive qualifying effort here. He is up there flirting with a top 20 start.
287 Camping World Truck Series starts for Setzer.
All right, crew chief, you're in.
Yeah, then you're.
Shut it down.
That, you know, this it always amazes me, and I hear you guys when I watch Cup qualifying and I watch nationwide qualifying, and he has shut it down.
Yeah.
But it's amazing the guy that'll bust off a first lap and get in, and then you see him just hung out on the second lap out there, and he's a go or go home car, and you're thinking, what's the point, man?
Right.
What's the point? Is this your first time at the racetrack? You know, but you see top teams do it, and you see other teams do it at the same time, and it just always amazes me. Is like, do they not use their radios when they qualify? And you know they do.
You
know they
got
do.
to. Yeah, Dennis Setzer, they're good enough for 16th. Definitely locks himself. He's the third quickest of our go-or-go homers. But I think right now, he's been taking Derek Cope and Johnny Chapman. Both have been bumped from the field. Jason Keller is on the bubble. And guys, here's Brian Scott. He was fourth quickest in practice yesterday, and we've talked about it. Do you make the run for the pole, or do you go ahead and put you a solid lap and just get in the field first and then worry about going quicker?
Yeah, and this is where maturity comes in, okay? And let's be honest about it. When you look at a Biffle or you look at a guy who's been in this situation, they're going to get their first lap, and it's going to be a solid lap. And then they'll go for the pole sometimes on a second lap, especially on a day like today. Sometimes when you're young and you've sat all night at a hotel room or in your motor coach and you've looked at that practice sheet, you're thinking, man, I can squeeze off another 10.
I'm going for it.
I can get this. But, you know, I think he's with a good enough team that they've probably told him, just get your lap in, bud.
8th overall.
Locked in.
8th overall for Brian Scott. Unfortunately, that bumps Jason Keller.
But he overdrove that corner right there. Somebody needs to tell him, hey, that's enough. You're not going to make any more time.
Yeah, well, you know, and especially, and you've seen it, you guys watch it on TV. Well, if you come off 2 and you're losing ground, come on in, man. Come on in. There's no need to bust it off through 3 and 4 again.
You're wasting fuel and burning tires.
Yeah.
So Brian Scott, the final driver to qualify of 51. He's 8th overall, and as we said, Jason Keller, the veteran, bumped Brad Keselowski with his 4th NASCAR Nationwide Series pole in his 107th career start later this afternoon. Kevin Harvick alongside. Let's go back to Kristen.
And we are here with our pole sitter. Sitting in there, were you sweating it out? You said you're terrible at this. You're on the pole. Come on.
I don't know how it worked out. The car must have just been that good. But awesome run for the Discount Tire Dodge Charger. Just really proud. This is a brand new team. To come out here and do this is a great accomplishment, something to be proud of, and a good start for hopefully what we can do to make a run for the championship this year. We know we got our work cut out for us with Carl Edwards. He's really good. So we got to have solid finishes, and you got to start well to finish well. So it all goes hand in hand.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Krista. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for this afternoon's NASCAR Nationwide Series race. A lot of familiar names up there at the front.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
That's right. And some young guys right up there, too. Ricky Stenhouse and Brian Scott.
And a lot of young guys. And you know, when you look at Justin Allgaier, when you look at Michael Annette, when you look at some of these guys sprinkled in with the Kevin LePages and the Brendan Gaughan's, a guy that gets around this place as good as anybody else. Kenny Wallace back there besides Danica. Joe and some of Josh and some of those guys. Mark Green, who's been here. This is a great place to learn and a great place to be.
You're going to see a lot of comers. You're going to see a lot of goers here when they drop the green flag. You saw some guys that are up there toward the front that kind of surprise you. And here's the guys, unfortunately, got a long trip home.
Well, after the commercial break, the first of 2 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practices.